The second thing that annoys the hell out of me, like it really annoys me, is the tears. The freaking tears.
My mum looks like you.
Somebody else should tell her story because she's one of those people that...
Oh my God, don't cry, you're gonna make me cry.
I feel like it's kind of fear tactics. Like if I say these things in these orders, like this person will back away. So if I tell them I'm bullied, if I tell them I've had a hard life, if I tell them, and it's really reminding me of people this color who will be saying things like,
sometimes it don't make no sense. Does it really have to? There is nothing I can say but the feelings.
hi, welcome to Mayowa's world. Okay, you all, I'm back again. As always, no electricity, but this time I'm not sweating because I feel like I figured it out. I'm slowly figuring it out. Today's video is going to be something that I am so fascinated by because I kind of went down a little rabbit hole. I know I'm kind of late on talking about things. I'm realizing that for my mental health, when I see things that are really topical, I'm intentionally going to talk about it maybe a week or 2 weeks or a couple weeks after, because sometimes there's a lot of pressure to jump on everything, and I don't want to be in that kind of place. But certain things that I'm thinking about often and curious about and connecting the dots about, that's the kind of stuff I want to talk about. So, okay. I don't know if y'all saw what happened with Thandie Newton when she gave this really terrible apology.
So desperately to apologize every day to darker skinned actresses, to say, I'm sorry that I'm the one chosen. My mama looks like you. It's been very painful to have women that look like my mum feel like I'm not representing them, that I'm taking from them, taking their men, taking their work, taking their truth.
But I was watching that little terrible ass apology she gave, and it was reminding me of someone. I was looking at it and I was like, you know who she reminds me of? Zoe Saldana. And then I thought to myself, have you ever seen Zoe Saldana and Dani Newton in the same location? Okay, allegedly, yeah, okay, there's a picture of them together. Apparently they're friends. But I feel like these, like minds think alike. Is that even an expression? But that's the expression that I'm using today. And then I started to think about all the ways, I was like, yo, the apology that Dani Newton gave when she was apologizing for colorism is so akin to what Zoe Saldana gave. And I was like, let me draw the parallels. Let me show y'all about not only about how these two apologize, but just typically how colorists apologize, or people who are not accountable apologize for colorism. Because there's really I feel like there's a step, in my opinion. I've broken it down, I have my notes over here, but it's a 6-step process, and I'm gonna get into the 6 steps of how unaccountable people apologize for colorism. Anyway, you guys, I'm going through a transitionary time. I feel like literally every video I say that, and I know life is one big transition, but sometimes things pull more than others, and I'm talking about it more on my Patreon. I'm gonna put it here. So if you guys are curious and want to support my work and just want to see videos that I publish on Patreon that I don't always publish for the public, then you can go over and support. But let's get into today's video because I gotta break y'all down what I saw. Okay, so I just want to first and foremost start off by talking about apologies in general. I feel like an apology and the acceptance of an apology is 2 different things. You can apologize for something and it doesn't mean that someone has to accept it. I need people to stop forcing acceptance onto especially dark-skinned people. Please, I beg. You don't have to accept someone's apology. I think there's expectation or thought process that if you don't accept someone's apology, it means you're bitter, or and I think that's really interesting with the words that we call dark-skinned people, which is bitter, and this kind of feeling of you're holding on to things forever and being so mean and being a bully, but never assessing that colorism is literally a form of bullying, and like everything that led up, like anytime a dark skinned person speaks about colorism, I bet you they saw like we saw like a million things leading up to that point. Like I feel like as a dark skinned person, you have to be so strategic with what you choose to call out, what you choose to say you're not happy with. So if you don't want to accept an apology, that's that. You don't have to, especially when these apologies be just, they be on some shit. And I feel like I'm noticing a trend right now where more people are apologizing. And I think it's probably because they're seeing the repercussions of what happens when like dark-skinned women, dark-skinned non-binary people are not fucking with your shit anymore. I feel like, you know, something that I'm very proud of right now is I feel like the discourse of colorism is something that I never saw growing up. Like I remember being so aware of colorism around the age of 7. I didn't have the language for it. I didn't have the understanding of it. You know when people would make them like, your mama, I grew up in the South. So like, you know how like, your mama's so ugly or your mama's so black. Like, and I remember the whole your mama's so black thing. And I remember just being like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, not even just them jokes, but just like people saying things. And I didn't have a language for it. And I think back in the day, like I feel like when my mom explained to me as a kid, I think she explained it as like shadeism or something like that. You know, there's different words I hear people say or whatever. But now I'm starting to see it more at the forefront, and so like that's just really exciting. And then also I want to say another quick thing. Something that I feel like I see people say is like, they're like, oh, I'm so tired of this colorism conversation. Like talking about colorism is so popular. Oppression will never be popular. Like it's an ongoing. It's not gonna, I think people think like, oh, colorism is just like going up, like being annoying for the past like 5 years. No, babes. It's a fucking lifestyle. Okay, so like it's not a short thing. It's things people live in their whole lifetime. Like, so please stop like diminishing colorism or making it seem like it's just like people being bored, because it's actually an oppression that affects people and doesn't have enough backing of statistics, backing in media to really be anything. So here we are on YouTube doing the things. That was a really long way for me to get into like the 6 steps. The 6 steps of unaccountable people apologizing for colorism. So the first step that I notice that people do is that they bring up their family. And I find this to be really, really interesting, because colorists would say like, how can I be colorist when I came from a black woman, right? Or like, how can I be colorist when my dad is black? Or how can I be colorist when I date black men?
And then to call me a colorist, to call me a racist is like, yo, how I'm dating a whole chocolate man.
To say, I'm sorry that I'm the one chosen. My mama looks like you.
Right? And all these things is complete utter nonsense. It's complete utter nonsense, because what is coming from something mean about your life as a person? Not only does that like apology specifically within colorism remind me of how men will be like, how can I be misogynistic when I come from a woman? How can I hate black women when I come from a woman? Like it's not, y'all didn't eat like you thought you ate. Like that's not really, it's because the funny part to me about that is that yes, sure, you can come from a black woman. That doesn't mean that you are being read as a black woman. Doesn't mean that you are existing as the same kind of person that your mother was. And also, colorism exists within dark-skinned people. Dark-skinned people are colorists, are anti-black to other dark-skinned people. Like, if that was the case, then countries where majority of people are dark-skinned, they wouldn't be colorists to each other, and that's not true. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but here in Nigeria, majority of people are dark-skinned, but people will still say colorist things to other dark-skinned people. So like, you say you come from a black woman doesn't really mean anything for how you are, because dark-skinned people can still hate themselves. Colorism still affects us. Like, the amount of work that I've had to do as a dark-skinned person to learn to just unlearn a lot of things that I, you know, growing up, I felt like as a dark-skinned person, I couldn't wear purple lipstick or red lip or like bright colors or stuff like that. Like unlearning where that comes from. Or like when I was younger, you know, I would always want to pick a lighter doll, unlearning where that comes from. Like, or when you take a picture and you're editing the filters or editing the things to make yourself lighter, unlearning where that comes from. We have to do the work as dark-skinned people. So no, I will not accept that you're telling me that your mother is like me, because one, I don't know the amount of work that your mother has done. I don't know the level of love she has for dark skin in general, and like that doesn't mean that you yourself exist as it. Like, you can come from something and still not be. A lot of y'all come from great mothers, and like look at y'all today. Like, that doesn't mean nothing. Like, and a lot of y'all can come from like really terrible parents, and that doesn't, it's not indicative. So please, this like bringing up your family member thing is getting very, very weird. Like, it doesn't, it's not translating. It just means that you have you saw someone who was black in your life, you saw someone who was dark skinned, does not mean that's how you lived. But I feel like they think that it's like convincing to us. Like I feel like they think like it's gonna soften us up because they're like, the mom is black. She's better. No, like you yourself don't live like that. Like let me have a conversation with your mom then. Let me go up with your mother. Ask what happened. Like, no. The second thing that annoys the hell out of me, like it really, really annoys me, is the tears. The freaking tears.
My mum looks like you.
Somebody else should tell her story because she's one of those people that...
Oh my god, don't cry, you're gonna make me cry.
Like, you know, have you ever seen that meme of this little girl, like she's crying onto an iPad and then she's like, and then when she clicks end, she like gets herself together, you know what I'm saying? And then she like, you know, edits it and posts it online. Like, it just never feels genuine for me. And whenever I'm in positions where I'm seeing someone cry, and I know that it's like they're coming from a place of fragility, like it just makes me feel numb. I'd be like this. Because I'm like, I feel like it's important for me to know that, let them know that that's not working. It's kind of like what little kids do when they trying to get you to, they want candy. Like I remember one time, like my niece, like she's like asking for candy and I'm saying no. She's like, that girl cleaned it all up to see if I was watching her cry. I was like, girl, you better stop. Like it gives me, and especially coming from actors, like I'm like, but I feel like people do it because like a lot of times light-skinned people can like play into being seen as like soft or like sensitive. And like, to be honest, a lot of times I feel like it might work in their advantage, or people see them crying and be like, oh, I didn't mean to make them cry. But what y'all never put into account is all the ways your colorism made us cry. All the ways I had to look at your ugly face being Nina Simone and that made me cry. All the ways for years. For years, like that incident, like that movie came out 4 years ago. For years you was doubling down. Like, what about all the tears of all the dark-skinned young people who never saw themselves represented? What about them tears? Like, I feel like you know you do violence, but then you're trying to just like add some tears to kind of like soften the blows that we have for you. Bro, you better come, you know what I'm saying? Come with the same heat you had when you was doubling down about why you should play Nina Simone.
I don't hate myself for being black. I don't think I'm privileged for being lighter. I wasn't raised with lighter, lightest, lightest. I don't understand. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Come with that heat. Like, the tears thing just really doesn't do it for me. I feel like people need to stop crying in apologies where they're definitely at fault. Like, I feel like when you start crying, it lets me know that like sometimes I feel like people do it to see if like it's working. Like, especially because a lot of times they can like clean up really quickly. Like, and it's just tacky. The third one that I also noticed within colorism is like people denying that it's an issue, denying that it's a thing, or like making it seem as if it's like an American problem.
I was black in England. I mean, dark-skinned. And so then I went to America and I was dark-skinned. I thought I was dark-skinned and I would describe myself as dark-skinned. It's like, you're light-skinned. And suddenly I was someone that, you know, you for being light-skinned. I got more prejudice from black people. I now realize that my, like, internalized prejudice was stopping me from feeling like I could play this role, when it's precisely that prejudice that I've received. It doesn't matter that it's from African American women more than anyone else. It doesn't matter. Something
that I've noticed, because I've lived in 3 different countries. Like, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, but I lived in England in my 20s, and then I'm living in Nigeria. But something that and I lived in Germany, sorry, I'm like mentioning a lot of places, but something that I've noticed is that people love to think like, oh, race is an American problem. And it's like, girly, your country is mad fucking racist as well. Like, girly, your country has mad colorism as well. Girly, you guys are, you're not where you, like, you don't keep your mouth shut. And I really hate the ways in which like because people think American has a race issues, then the people who really get the brunt of like being the Debbie Downers is like African Americans. And I don't like when people come for like, obviously I don't like when people come for African American women, but I don't like when African American women are like looked at as being like hyper race fixated. Like, like the thing that I think African American culture has done really fucking right is having language to describe things that's really going on in the world and having a lot of discourse about it, because it's like for survival. So yes, like okay, in America maybe they was calling you out for not being black enough or whatever, but it's because we're having the, like, we're not scared. Like they're saying how we're saying. I've even had people try and tell me, like, sometimes like Nigerians will say, oh, the reason that you care so much about colorism is because you grew up in the States or whatever. My dear, if that was the case, then why content warning mentioning of like bleaching? But that was the case, then why is bleaching like one of the highest tier in Nigeria? Like, please don't make it seem like it's an American issue when every country needs to put its head down, because no one should be standing up for this. All of us are affected by the exact same system, and the affection is different for each place. Like when Thandie really had the audacity to open that crocodile mouth to say like, oh, I was considered dark skinned in England. By who? Who was calling you that? Who would say that? Who would say that? I know no one say it. Like, and it's just like, and then, you know, this makes me mad because a lot of times I feel like people, like, if you haven't had an opportunity to go to another place, like sometimes you think to yourself, oh, this place maybe doesn't have so many dark-skinned people or so many black people. As someone who's gone to a lot of places, one thing I know for sure is that there are dark-skinned people everywhere. So everywhere. I went to Hungary. There's dark-skinned Nigerian communities in Hungary. You wouldn't even think that they would be places. Belgium, dark-skinned community. Like, there's black people everywhere. So please, this whole like, oh, in England I was considered dark-skinned. No, you wasn't. As if people who are Daniel Kaluuya's complexion doesn't exist. As if people who are Naomi Campbell's color, like, you really thought you ate, girl. Sit your ass down. Like, no. That just made me so mad. I remember, and this is something that I think about often, is like, I remember kind of being told or feeling like, you know, when there's a lot of discourse about like Afro-Latina and like Latina, and I've heard so many people who are non-black Latinos be like, oh, I have come from black ancestry, da 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 da. And when I was younger, I thought, oh, maybe the majority of people there is probably like light white, you know. Then I found out there's like huge more black people there than there is here. So when you talk about, oh, I have black ancestry, and so because you yourself is not black, and y'all have black people, and that's really embarrassing that you come here talk about, oh, I'm black, this, I'm black that way. In your own country, there are people who are actually black, and they looking at you like. And also the opportunities that you get often is leveraged off of your whiteness or lightness. So like that always made me so mad, is like people want to act like, oh, I've ever heard someone tell me, oh, in America we don't have colorism. So this is what I mean, is like there's this thing where anytime you're getting called out for something, suddenly it's not real. Suddenly it doesn't exist. Like suddenly there's the narrative isn't what we thought the narrative was. Even when Zoe Saldana had the nerve to talk about, in my house, I wasn't growing up knowing lighter, like test. Girl, if you can't even say light skin, I don't want to have a conversation with you, because who calls lighter?
I wasn't raised with lighter, lightest, lightest. I don't understand.
Like, girl, you light skin, you know you light skin. Like, maybe y'all wasn't having that conversation at the household, but every time you go to casting calls and it writes like looking for light skinned women, you know you show up, right? Or you don't know anything. Like this playing into oblivion thing, like we see you. Then the fourth thing I noticed happening is like when people discuss like bullying. I saw this video, this is not really related because she didn't even give an apology, but I saw this video of FK Twigs talk about.
I was working with somebody, and she was a dark-skinned girl with short hair, and she thought it was like funny to call me Wash and Go, and that was her nickname for me on the job we were going, like she'd kind of be like Wash and Go.
Girl, like, what kind of stuff is this? Like, y'all really think that going up and telling us about the ways in which you was bullied, like, you're so used to, like, I don't know, like, almost submission from others, almost like, it's like, I feel like it's kind of fear tactics. Like, if I say these things in these orders, like, this person will back away. So if I tell them I'm bullied, if I tell them I've had a hard life, if I tell them, and it's really reminding me of people this color who will be saying things like, I was poor growing up, so I didn't experience white privilege. Like, if you don't take 15 seats, like, it doesn't, what is you being bullied? Like, and is your bully systematic is my question. And like, this is always the point, is like, colorism isn't like an uncomfortability. Colorism is like a systematic thing. Colorism is the reason that we don't have that many dark-skinned women in biopics. Colorism is the reason that we have higher sentencing in jail. Colorism is the reason that we're always being perceived as angry. And dark-skinned people are always the ones who just so have dark-skinned non-men, dark-skinned women, dark-skinned non-binary people are always the ones who are just like exiled or like seen as like the trouble, like in every dynamic. Like that is colorism, not being told you was a wash and go girly. You know, if someone told me I was a wash and go girly, I'll be living for my life. Like, so it's just like, why do y'all use this time? And then like when Dani said like, I was bullied more.
I was worried about my light-skinnedness because my light-skinnedness has been more problematic than being black, is being light-skinned. Has been way more problematic.
And I feel like they think if they say it was conviction, like suddenly you start to feel, and it's like, here's the thing is like, I've just experienced a lot of this. So I have a way of just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really faze me, but I feel bad for people who are like incredibly sympathetic because you just kind of play into the fact that you know like your tears and your sensitivity will always be heard and resound more than someone who's darker than you. Like, that's what makes me really mad is that they know like it's really a tactic, you know, and it's not just even when like if you guys want to see it on a bigger scale, like look at it within any oppression groups, like look at it when white women are called out, like, you know, white tears and stuff. It's a thing. It's just like I feel like people just can't see the ways in which it connects back to like our own community and like everything we do and like how we are called out. The fifth one, which is like specific to Thandie Newton, is like apologizing and then like doubling down on the violence. Like, I'm so sorry your men like me, but I'm gonna do it again. Like, that's what it was giving. I'm sorry I'm hot, but I'll still take your man. Like, she really thought she was doing something. And it's like a lot of times people aren't really sorry. And this is what I mean about accepting people's apologies and like me having that for the beginning part of talking about not accepting people's apologies is because like you can tell, you can always feel when something feels like it's genuine. Like it's like, oh, I'm sorry if you guys' feelings was hurt, but like that's not a real apology, and we all know it's not a real apology, and we all know what it feels like, but somehow we continue to still do these things. And then the last one, the sixth and final step, this is usually how they wrap it up and like give it back to you. They say, at the end of the day, we're all one. And it's like, what other oppression constantly mentions that we're all one? Like, well, the only oppression that I know of is when white people say like, I don't see race, we're all one race. Like, and this is what I mean, because colorists will still say like, Zoe Saldana really with her whole ass chest be like, I don't believe I have privilege because I'm light skin. And Dani did the same thing too. That's why I'm saying they twins. They be hitting the same moves, because how can you say all that and then you know you wrap it up and you say we are one? Like, imagine if you you know when you call out white women for being like racist and like not seeing the intersections, and they say like we are one. Like, it's one where, babe? Like, who? I don't really know what this like bringing up of humanity is. I feel like we do it to almost like trivialize the things that people are like talking about, because if we keep saying like we're all black, we're all one, we're all human, it kind of makes you feel like, oh dang, maybe my points wasn't valid. But your points was definitely valid. Whoever's like watching this and has seen like these exact steps happen with like their own lives, like just know that you're valid. So like my question for everyone is like, have y'all experienced like these 6 steps, and how do you feel about like not accepting apologies? Because for me, like, it's not in my ministry to accept things from people who I don't feel like I'm ever gonna see change behavior. Like, I honestly feel like if Zoe Saldana won an Oscar for that ugly ass blackface that she did, like, she wouldn't be apologizing. It's only because it flopped and she didn't, and people was dragging her on the internet. Like, there are so many TV shows like the Basketball Wives, like there's a spew of all these colorist ass comments, like nonstop. Like, they're based off of that, but they know that like it's gonna keep like that colorism is never reason to like stop doing something. So like, no, like these apologies like don't really like mean much to me, because for me everything depends on like what it starts out, what did you do for me to accept your apology? Like, so I'm curious to know what y'all's relationship is to like receiving apologies, and like what steps of these like 6 steps that I broke down, like what have you seen in your own lives and stuff like that. But thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.